So many people in this day and age where technology, social media, and what we perceive to be the world around us accelerating at such a what appears to be and what seems to be such a rapid pace, a lot of people, I believe, find it difficult to be able to be in the now, in the moment, and be okay, right? Let's forget the extremes. Extremely happy, or being a monk and just, being impervious to everything. I'm just talking about being okay. A lot of people are struggling with that, like tremendously right now. And one thing that I wanted to discuss today, this has been kind of like a secondary benefit to the path that I've been on for the last 12 years now with my career pursuits, right, in sales and real estate, learning and growing, not just professionally, but as an individual, studying, reading and all these things that I've done, which has turned my life completely upside down in a good way, right? I'll sum it up like this and we'll discuss it. The more I have learned and understood the human being, the easier life has become for me. Because so much of what we detest, are upset at, fight, stress about, think about this for a second. So much of that comes down to things that we don't understand. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a family member or a friend who's acting in a way, living their life or doing something that maybe you don't approve of, but you're sitting there scratching your head trying to figure out why it happened and you want to help them. If you had the answer to that, wouldn't the weight of that either completely or for the most part be taken off of you? Wouldn't it be alleviated? Well, yeah, because either you would have the solution to help them, or you would have a real genuine understanding of why they're in that position, speaking how they're speaking and acting like they're acting and living like they're living, to where you could say, hey, I don't approve of it, but I understand it. So I can just stay over here. I'm not going to support what they're doing. I may attempt to help, but I get it. I know why they're doing that or acting that way or being that way. And that understanding changes so much. You see, because with that will come a big spike in your compassion for other human beings, the ability for you to empathize with other people. And it gives you much more of a genuine objective viewpoint on life. Like, let's put it into another arena. I have my beliefs in life and, politics and all that stuff, right? But the other side, the opposing side, like let's look at a typical one right now that's in the limelight and has been for a long time, like Democrat, Republican, right? I get it. I lean much more towards the Republican side and conservative side, and I have for a long time. And many of you know who have followed me over to this channel, a lot of those opinions and views have gotten me canceled, censored to where I can't run ads and do a lot of stuff. Besides that though, I can look at the other side and I can understand where they're coming from and why they believe what they believe. I detest it. I don't agree with it. But I get it. So that's why you don't see me fighting them. Or even if they come to my channel and complain, I don't care. Like I understand their position. I know why they view me as an enemy or evil or this and that. And believe me, I've heard it all. I get it. So I don't agree with them, but again, I don't lose sleep over it. It's not ruining my life. They're not living in my mind. I believe in what I believe in, and I'm going to stand for it, regardless of what people say or how much pressure you apply. But I'm not caught up. You get what I'm saying? I'm not in this tug of war with them or back and forth. Like, I get it. And a lot of people on this side, if we're going to talk the political side, they just can't fathom how this other person believes that way. And then they get in this back and forth and it doesn't get anywhere. Now, if somebody, piques their curiosity, hey man, really want to understand your position. Yeah, I'll have that back and forth with them, no problem. But there's never any, but I get it. The point is underneath it all, I understand where they're coming from. I can see how they came to the conclusions that they came to. I genuinely can. So that completely detaches me emotionally because I understand. Again, I may not like it. I may not approve of it. I may detest it. I may hate it, or any varying degree of any of those things that I said. but I'm okay. I can sit over here and observe it and not let it affect me. And I think so many people are missing that key ingredient in their life. So, well, Bryan, what's the answer? Learn, study, life experience, learning from good mentors and people who will teach you, getting out there and locking horns literally with life, engaging with life, diving in and jumping headfirst into these things that make you uncomfortable. So again, we were talking about politics because that's a very general example that most people can follow. If you're a Republican, go spend time with and talk to and get to understand the Democrats and vice versa. Even if that makes you extremely uncomfortable, you need to do it. You need to jump into the lion's den because that's where the growth is. So many people have, turned the other cheek or gone away because maybe I said something or they believe that I represent this thing that they don't know about, right? Like I remember for a while I was recommending that people read certain things like, oh, read this like L. Ron Hubbard book. Oh my God, he's the creator of Scientology and this and that. I said, cool. Like, what do you know about it? Oh, I just heard. Okay, fuck what you heard. Read the book. Just like the previous point, read the book. And then if you come to the conclusion objectively that it's shit or whatever, okay, then move on and go on to something else. But why are we even refusing to look at something based on, again, an emotional response that we have no factual information on? And then guess what? The people who did decide to read those books, or again, that's just one of a million examples. Oh man, that was really good and I can't believe I was looking at it that way. Great. I'm not saying you have to love the guy or approve of him. You still may think he's a piece of shit. That's fine. But read the book. Put that to the side because this is also tied in, even though this is a separate point, this is tied in with character assassination that the world does. Somebody, like let's say I become the world's biggest villain. But let's say I have a piece of information or something that I give the world or teach them that's genuinely valuable. That would be independent of me being a piece of shit or not, right? If this thing, this invention or whatever this thing is really valuable. They should be able to take this thing regardless of who I am and use this thing. But if they refuse to acknowledge or look at this because they say, well, this guy's an asshole, that's the problem. That's a big problem. Not for the world, but for you. Because then you'll refuse to look at subjects or information. Like, let me give you a real life example of that. There's so many people who, I remember back in the day before I got censored, oh, I would love to follow you, Bryan, but you, and then fill in the blank, but you cuss, so I can't listen to you. They themselves would say, I would so love to follow you, but I'm not going to listen because blank. How foolish is that? That's causing more problems in their life. Because now they're blocking their ability to learn something new that they themselves are admitting they want to learn from. But because I throw the occasional F-bomb or I say shit, oh, you can't listen. Grow up. Again, side point to the main point. But you get where I'm going with this. Grow up. That's a part of learning. That's a part of wisdom. I've lost count of how many people I've learned from that I, on a personal level, did not agree with or disliked. But I learned from them. I had no problem putting that to the side to learn that 1, 2, or 3, or 4 things that I needed to learn from them. And I'll give them credit for it. I'm not going to go out and be their friend or have a beer with them, but I learned something important from them. Cool. Look at the famous salesperson, Jordan Belfort. Screwed over a lot of people for millions of dollars. You can't deny, though, that the dude is a phenomenal salesperson. And shout out to Jordan if he ever watches this video. I teach sales. He's one of the top dogs, right? A lot of his stuff I've incorporated into my teachings. I recommend his stuff. I probably sold a lot of his courses because I sent a lot of my students to him as well. So whether you on a personal, level dislike him or anything in between, you can't deny that he's a phenomenal salesperson and communicator. It is what it is. But that's a part of the growing and learning process as a human being. So that's directly tied into that first point. The more we understand and learn about human beings, the better life gets. Things start making sense. You start understanding why people, when they get cut off in traffic, they get pissed off and yell. And you can just laugh at it now instead of letting it affect you and you getting mad. Well, why are you yelling at me? Somebody, thinks that I cut them off and honks at me. I just laugh. I don't care anymore. I don't get caught up in that. I get why they're doing that. Why would I let it affect me? You become disconnected. You disassociate with this stuff by By understanding, it puts you in a different category, my friends. That's the freedom that you're looking for in this existence. Sometimes these guys will go on their rants and... Do I let it drive me crazy? No. I understand they're a cat, they're a creature, they're supposed to, scream, and then I studied them. Okay, they're in heat, they want to have sex, and da-da-da-da, they're going to meow in a certain way. Okay, that's fine. I need to understand their nature. The more that I understand, the less that it affects me, because I know why they're doing what they're doing. I know that if I just yell at these guys, they're not going to suddenly stop and obey me because I yelled at them. So, with that said, you have to have that yearning as a human being to learn. You have to have that desire to want to master these things and learn. You have to willingly step into that field. Otherwise, you're just going to live day after day after day after day, and nothing's going to change. You have to jump into the side of living, which, by the way, by modern standards is boring, nerd, whatever. They'll call you a square because that's the way society is. It glorifies bullshit, and it just destroys or belittles anything that could be of substance to your growth for the most part. Anything that I've taught or talked about over the years has never been popular. I've been preaching to people not to smoke, drink, party, do all that bullshit for a long time. But that's considered cool. I'm interested in living the best type of life. The least amount of stress, the most amount of peace, the most effective communication, being able to move people with my words, being able to create endless opportunities, having options when it comes to friendships, dating, relationships, and all that. That's what I'm focused on. And having a better just overall understanding of life so I can navigate my time on this planet better. If that's the journey that you're on too, then subscribe and join me. If not, cool. Then thanks for stopping by. Good luck to you. But see, this childlike curiosity that I have is one of those traits from childhood that many of you have lost. Because there's many things that we grow out of as children that, again, you should grow out of. But there's a lot of things like that stubbornness as a child, that curiosity you have as a child, that we lose, that you need to reconnect with, because at one point you had it. When you were a child, if you wanted to be a doctor, nobody could talk you out of it, not the president or anybody. But now it's very easy for somebody to say, oh, that's not realistic, and you'll give up anything like this. So make it a point every day that you're going to learn more about human beings, become a better communicator, and get to the bottom of a lot of these things, why people are acting the way they're acting, why it's so easy for people to be manipulated, why this whole situation in 2020 fooled so many people. Get to the root of it and understand why. Then you won't be as mad at the people who wore a mask or whatever it is. And you'll understand why they did it. Because I was in the middle of all that stuff. And although I was the enemy to everybody else, I still lived a peaceful and happy life. I just decided to move myself out of that and get out of that. But it wasn't affecting my peace, my mental clarity, my mental health. Because I got it. I understood. And if you start developing that, I'm telling you, life becomes a lot better, more enjoyable, and easier. There's going to be less friction in your life, less scratching your head and there's still going to be moments of that for sure, but less. Because if you, in your mind, believe, man, I don't understand 99% of this shit, well, shit, of course you're going to feel a lot of pressure because you feel lost. But that's the cool part of this discovery process and learning process. As you start to peel back the layers of that onion, okay, I get it now. Not knowing, because there's two categories, right? There's some things like what happens after we die. You never know. And depending on what you believe in, we die and we resurrect, we go to heaven. We are reincarnated on earth. We go to Sirius 9 star, right? Everybody has their belief, but there's certain things about life that you're just not going to know. So there's that category, which you need to be okay not knowing. But a lot of other stuff in life you can learn about and figure out. And not knowing that is what drives you nuts. Like, let's say your last breakup. If you never had closure or understanding, that drives some people into insanity, depression, because they were never able to close that chapter. Why did we split up and what happened? And right? So something as simple as that could drive somebody insane. That's the potency of this subject. Your psyche, your mental health, your reality depends on it, which is why you need to be a student of life and learn more and grow and pay attention and always be downloading and learning things, right? Where we stagnate, we die. Water flows, it brings life, it's great. Where water stagnates, bacteria grows, insects come, bad. Think of yourself as that. Be that water that flows. Okay? I'll end it here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Any resources that you'd like to take advantage of, I've added a ton of free ones in the description. All right? We'll see you in the next video. Peace.